Some people who seem to procrastinate and not do things, maybe not follow through when they make promises, it's not even just that they don't follow through with, oh, here's this tedious task or this really miserable thing. Sometimes it's something that would be really, really good for them. And they know it, they're not dumb, and they still avoid doing the thing that would benefit them. They don't feel like going to the grocery store, don't really have a lot in the house. They know they could get nutritious food, it's not that hard. They have the budget for it, but they don't feel like going. So instead, they just scrounge around, find a half-eaten old bag of chips, and that's dinner. They know that going to the dentist is good for them, but a year and a half later, they've still not seen a dentist because they just didn't feel like getting around to it. And they're not even scared of the dentist, they just don't do it. They could have gotten their insurance taken care of, and they just needed to turn in one paper, but they just didn't turn in the one paper. Even though insurance is good for them, they would have used the insurance, but they just didn't get around to it. I even know someone who, to no fault of their own, got laid off with all the tech layoffs, and for months has just been basically playing video games. And they said they wanted to develop an app. They said they were going to apply to such and such amount of jobs a day, and instead they apply to that many jobs like in a month. They didn't do anything wrong to get in the situation that they're in, but they're not doing anything right to get out of the situation they're in, where now they need a job. And I know someone who self-diagnoses themselves, and they know if they would just go see their doctor, they could get an official diagnosis, start taking medication, and get help. And instead, they just sort of say, oh, well, I believe I have this, and then they don't do anything about it. And it's a treatable thing. There's medication for the thing, even if they're right, even if it's actually that diagnosis. But they don't go, because as much as it would help them, they don't feel like it. They're just sort of avoiding doing the thing that would be good, even though they know it would be good. I know some people who are avoiding a very necessary conversation with a family member, and it would make everything clear, and it would really substantially improve their life to have that conversation, and they just avoid it. Even though they're intelligent, even though they understand the repercussions of continuing to not do it, they just don't do the thing that's good for them. They avoid it because the anticipation of doing that thing in and of itself is so emotionally draining that they don't really have any energy left over afterward to put toward the actual thing. They think about it and mull over it for so long that it sort of becomes a habit that when I think about this thing, whether it's good or bad, I'm just going to be exhausted. And then when you don't have any energy, of course you're struggling to do stuff. Even a good thing can be a struggle if you're exhausted. And they're emotionally and mentally tiring themselves out. And so then they just don't do it. And so it's a really weird form of avoidance, this kind of procrastination, because you would think, oh, this is going to have good results, would be an automatic reason to do something. For some people, they think, wow, this would turn out really good for me. Why wouldn't I do that? And yet I see people do it all the time, even people who think that they wouldn't. Oh, it would behoove you for the rest of your life to get rid of this little bit of debt right here, but you don't really get around to it. It would make so much sense for you and your partner to go on a trip together, but you guys haven't gone on vacation together in like 2 years. You just keep plodding along, even though it would be great. Why? And sometimes it's depression, and I don't want to negate the emotional draining that depression causes. And sometimes it's a financial reason. Oh, that would be a really good thing, but I just don't have the money for it right this second. Don't let yourself build the habit while you're waiting for that temporary state to go away of having that negative anticipation, of having that emotional drain, and then later, oh, now you can afford it, but you don't even do it because now it just feels like a lot. Being emotionally drained can result in being physically tired. I wish more people really thought about that, like stopped and thought about it for a few minutes. It affects people, but instead, if they start feeling tired and they think, oh, I haven't really done anything today, they start beating themselves up for it. Beating yourself up takes energy, and you already have such a small capacity. You already have almost no energy, and so you're wasting what little you have to make it worse for yourself. And you can bully yourself into avoiding things that are good for you. You can train yourself that when it's time to do something, you're just going to automatically default to, oh, that sounds exhausting, whether it's good for you or not. And you're training yourself basically to not have any expectations, to not even try. Why even bother? It's just going to be energy sapping. And so you encounter the next thing, and maybe it's really, really good, but you can't make yourself do it because, it's exhausting. You set yourself up for failure accidentally, and the more you bully yourself, the more you guilt trip yourself, the more you treat yourself like, oh, you did some terrible thing by not following through on this good thing, the more you call yourself an idiot or lazy, the more you're reinforcing to yourself to not even try the next time. Good things are good for a reason, and pursuing them can be very fulfilling. And so if you're not, you're gonna feel kind of hollow, and you're gonna try to fill that hollowness up with something. And if you're not filling it up with the good thing because you're avoiding doing it, you're gonna fill it up, unfortunately, with a lot of self-criticism and harsh words toward yourself. And you're gonna start treating yourself like really crappy. Shutting your emotions off means shutting off all emotions, good and bad. Avoiding feeling means you're gonna also be avoiding feeling good, because you're trying to avoid feeling bad. Accepting that you're a cup and both things are gonna flow in, negative feelings and positive feelings, and increasing how much you can hold can help you a lot. And it can help you to pursue good things, to try to choose which faucet is pouring into you more. Because you can't choose which faucet turns on, period. They're gonna just happen. Feelings pop up. You don't really get to decide, oh, you know what? I today am going to encounter only good things and have only good feelings. That's not how life works. But you can focus on the feelings as they pop up, and when it's a positive feeling, hold on to it a little bit. Sit in it more. Let it be in your cup a little longer. Encourage it to stay. And the more that you focus on the positive feelings that pop up, and the more that you don't beat yourself up for having the negative feelings that pop up, the more emotional energy you'll have left over afterward toward doing the thing that's good for you. You're not a bad person because you don't do things that are good for you. You're an exhausted person, most likely. You're an avoiding person, and it might not even be all of the time. It might just be some of the time. Sometimes I feel like we all do it. We all procrastinate, even when it's good for us, the thing that we could be doing. When your default is not even expecting to try, you've come to believe that you don't have more to give, that you've already done as much as you can, that you're finished for the day, that this is as much as you've got. You start convincing yourself, well, I'm just a procrastinator. Well, I just don't have more. Well, this is my limit. and you start to create a belief about yourself. And so then you don't even push, you don't even try to get past that barrier, and it's a self-induced barrier. When we're growing up, sometimes the people around us and over us can create barriers that are beliefs about ourselves. But once we get into an adulthood state, we sort of start to do that to ourselves. And if you don't pay attention, you can make it really, really hard for yourself. So instead of belittling yourself, try to be encouraging to yourself. Think about, what are the things that I wish my parents did more? And then do that to yourself more. What are the things that I wish the guardians in my life, whoever they were, did more often? What are the things that I like that they did? Do that more often. What are the things that I wish they didn't do? Don't do that to yourself. And it's easy to say that. It can take creating habits to actually effectively accomplish that, but it helps you have more emotional energy. And the more emotional energy you have to tap into, the more capable you are of doing things that need to get done, good and hard. Sometimes things that need to get done are not pleasant, and you have to just persevere and get through it. And you can create a habit of perseverance by not procrastinating on the things that are good, by not prolonging that anticipation of doing the thing, creating less distance between, oh, I remember this needs to get done, and okay, I'm doing it now. It's so important to do things that help us. It's so important to rest when you need to do things that energize you when you're feeling bleh. Like, it's so important to realize that we can use positive things to trigger positive things for us. We can say, hey, you know what? This thing over here, it always makes me feel good. So I'm going to save that for when I'm feeling crappy, and I'm going to go for it. And I'm going to use that thing to help me feel less crappy, because it elevates my emotional state. And if you're not coupling, I need to do this thing with, well, it's not like I can anyway, it becomes such an easier thing to do. Creating resistance just slows everything down. It just bogs everything down. If you're struggling with time management, how much of the struggle is avoiding doing things? It takes you so long to do a thing because part of it is just getting up the willpower and the energy and the emotional strength to do it. And it could be something like brushing your teeth. It doesn't have to be some giant, oh, I have to turn in this report, or oh, my manager wants me to go over this inventory, or some, bigger thing that could affect your life more. Oh, I have to develop a retirement account with my spouse. I have to go over with my siblings the will, and my parents just passed. Like, there's bigger and bigger and bigger things. And it's just a method of training yourself, and you can handle bigger and bigger things. But it starts with something really small, like brushing your teeth, and turning that into a consistent habit, because you know it's good for you. You logically understand it. And getting yourself to where emotionally you have enough energy left over to actually follow through doing it. And when you do it, bask in the fact that you did. Train yourself to enjoy having accomplished that, even brushing your teeth. You know what? I brushed my teeth. My teeth feel clean. They actually look decent for the moment. My breath smells good. Bask in it for even just 30 seconds, a couple minutes. Recognize the good feeling so that you feel a little bit of that relief, of that reward emotionally. And you slowly, gradually make it where following through feels like a good thing. All the thoughts that you're having about the thing leading up to it can often create a mass of deterrent. But all the things you're thinking afterward can create a mass of encouragement. So think positive thoughts afterward. Give yourself a pat on the back. Don't belittle yourself. And if you didn't brush your teeth the full 2 minutes, and say you only brushed your teeth for like 45 seconds, don't start getting down on yourself. Don't start beating yourself up, because you're literally training yourself to avoid it. You're training yourself to avoid more than just brushing your teeth. If you train yourself to enjoy the good, you can triumph over the procrastination. You can do it.